Hi everyone, Natu is here again, back with another video. And in this video, I'm going to tell you the secret as to why you haven't closed a deal yet. So the reason, and this is more of a topic of focus, but when people get into, either raising capital for their funds, roll-ups or acquisitions for either, real estate acquisition deals or even business acquisition deals, there's one key thing that many people who are just getting into their first transaction, they mix up when they're getting into all this. The main thing is people always look at what they don't have, and they always say that, I don't know whether to do a business acquisition or whether I should do real estate or multi-family complex acquisition. I have 20 years of experience in real estate, for example, and I don't know which one to do. And we get a lot of people asking us this question. The quick answer is, when you look at how Warren Buffett made all of his money, for example, when you look at what Einstein said when he talked about the eighth wonder of the world, when you look at how every exponential system in the universe that we know about work, we always know that things that get good results, things that build over long periods of time, things that are self-reinforcing, they're self-reinforcing, that are exponential, that everything that is asymmetric, we always know that it comes from compound interest. And I don't mean financial compound interest, I mean literal multiplying of efforts. And the more time you spend on something, my point is, the more time you spend on something, the better you'll get at it. I'll give you one example with one of our members. He's been in real estate for 20 something years, and he went into a situation where he was asking us whether he should go into business acquisitions or whether he should go into the continue doing a real estate deal just to buy an apartment complex. The man had 20 something years of experience in real estate, and he had everything he knew, but because he saw the shiny object syndrome of business acquisitions, he wanted to go into business acquisitions, and then he spent like 2 years not closing that deal because he saw other people that closed the deal. So what's funny is that people who are starting to go back into the things that they know, they manage to get results much quicker because they don't have to depend on leading a team that don't know the core competencies. They don't have to learn about how to build a board and do all this stuff. They just, they still do that. They still build a team and a board and all that, but they actually have a core competence in something, and they spend years doing it. So the amount of effort to originate a deal is much easier. The amount of effort to underwrite a deal is much easier. The amount of effort to raise the debt and raise the equity for the deal is much easier. And then the amount of effort to potentially create a fund, after your first few acquisitions would be that much easier. And many people, what they do, they actually go straight into the fund because they've already been into a certain industry for a certain amount of time. My point is, there is never something where it's like everything we're doing is hard. Creating businesses is hard, running businesses is hard, real estate acquisitions are hard, business acquisitions are hard. They're all hard. The question is, which do we see ourselves spending the most amount of time focusing on and doing? Because the more time we spend doing something consistently over a longer period of time, the more we can actually benefit from the compound efforts that was spent in knowing the markets, rather than us having to, build a chairman and build a board around us that don't know how to do it. So number one is really the long-term focus and letting that effort build over years of time and experience, making the underwriting, the origination, the capital raising, and the operation of the business much more in-house. That's number one. Number two is another reason why people you haven't closed your deal yet if you haven't yet. It's simply because you haven't started. So even if you're watching this video and you're excited and you're interested in this, if you haven't closed a deal yet, it's because you haven't actually sent offers out. You haven't actually talked to investors. You have to talk to dozens of investors every day, and build your own repertoire of investors. You have to run ads to investors. You have to message investors cold. You have to run ads to them. You have to get introduced to them. You have to, you have to always be talking to investors. One of our members, he was really slow in getting the process going, and it was just because he didn't speak to investors. Instead of that, he was creating the PPM, spending thousands on lawyers and doing all this stuff, but he didn't speak to one investor. But then with the new setup, we got him speaking to investors right away, and so that's why he started getting everything moving, and he got the letters of commitments and everything, and that's what he used to leverage it to actually raise some capital for his deals. And this one was a cross between blockchain and mortgages. And so that's number 2, you're not talking to investors. And number 3, the reason why you haven't raised capital for your deal is because you don't know about probabilities. Everything comes down to probabilities. You don't understand the cause-effect relationships between how many people you should contact, what is the percentage chance of them saying yes on a call, what's the percentage chance of them giving you a term sheet, and what's the percentage chance of the deal closing. You have an either over-optimistic view of what's going to happen or an over-pessimistic view, and you don't have enough information. There was one, we look at it, we say that whenever there's a percentage chance, whenever there's a rates of people that reply to your deal, that's really, you're creating a percentage probability chance of it happening. And a lot of people, they don't track anything when they do their outreach, and so that's why they don't know cause-effect relationships and when their deals would close. Instead, they react on emotion, and they get the dopamine rush when somebody says yes, but they don't have backup plans as well. And so with all these 3 things, real quick, people don't use long-term focus. That's one way. People don't use a long-term focus. People also, they don't get conversations going with investors. And finally, people don't know and measure the numbers and the probabilities of their deals closing and having backup plans. And so with all these things, if you do all these 3 things, like aggressively and violently, then your deal will close. And until your deal closes, it doesn't really matter what you do. But with that, if this video makes sense and if this video will get you in the right states to start closing your deal, that's what we want. But who am I? Who is Raises.com, and what do we do? Well, we help people do these 3 things without some of the typical needless mistakes, like getting fined by the Securities Commission and things like that nature, by helping them prepare and set up either their funds or acquisitions financially and from a compliance point of view, as well as actually build their relationships to actually close on the deal. And so if this is something that you'd like to do, just head to Raises.com and we'll make it happen. So with this, thank you for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next video.